Well, Mary, welcome. It's good to have you here.
Thank you.
It's very,
Here.
very, very exciting. Have you been on here yet?
How could you not remember?
I'm just teasing you.
It's probably the best one.
It was
Clearly
early
teasing.
on in COVID season.
This feels like a year ago.
It does.
Too good. So we're starting a new series at the moment, talking about how we're wired and how we're created and how each of us are unique and individual and how there might be purpose behind all of that. So I might read out this little bit of from 1 Corinthians chapter 12, a little bit of inspiration for this series and what we want to talk about. And then, Shaz, I might get you to just expand upon what we want to be covering. So this is from 1 Corinthians 12, verse 4 to 7. It says, there are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit distributes them. There are different kinds of service, but the same Lord. There are different kinds of working, but in all of them and in every one is the same God at work. Now to each one, the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the common good.
I love that bit about the common good. Just putting that one out there.
Yeah, go for it.
But I kind of go, it's November and we're heading into starting to think about 2021. And for so many people, I know they're kind of going, oh, what's that going to look like? Because there's so much uncertainty around COVID and so many plans got mucked up this year, so many purposes, so there's a lot of questioning going on. And I guess what I wanted to begin was having this discussion around gifts and passion and interests and how we're all uniquely wired, because it doesn't really matter whether there's a pandemic happening or not. There's always good that we can do. There's always love that can happen. Love's still bigger than a pandemic.
Yeah.
And we can always still be asking the question, what's a need and how can I help? Whether you're locked in a home or whether there's a certain amount of freedom, there's always something. There's always love that can happen. And each one of us is wired in such a unique and special way. So I thought it would be really cool for us to have discussions about, some of what we're doing, some of the dreams that we might still have, and just the way in which we're wired.
That's very cool. That's awesome. You shared a really interesting quote with me earlier on. Do you recall what it was? It was about passion.
That people can't find our identity unless we're passionate about something. So when we're passionate, people can very quickly figure out who we are.
Yeah.
But if we're not passionate about anything, so if we're just going through life boring, sleeping, they can't figure out actually who we are. And we probably don't know who we are either.
That's a good point. Maybe we launch off there. Mary, what are you passionate about?
I think people is probably my number one passion. Like in my life, I've always gone, there's music and all that kind of thing, but everything comes back to people for me. So I'm passionate about the people I'm in relationship with, especially Richard.
No,
he's perfect.
That's her husband.
He's perfect.
He is pretty perfect. I always call him my best gift. Yeah, he's so great. But I've always been passionate about my friendships as well and all of that kind of thing. But also in my work history, I've always gotten more meaning out of working in people-related industries. So at the moment I work in disability support and managing teams for that. And, I have passion about that. For sure.
Did that surprise you? Because that was a new industry for you.
It
wasn't. It caught you unawares in a way, and it was almost an accident, wasn't it?
It was totally. It was because I was working in hospitality with you guys, and I was like, I'm not good at this.
You are good at it.
You're very good at it.
Well, I wasn't good at managing a cafe.
You were tired.
I was tired, yeah. I had no real experience in that either at the time. And I was more interested in talking to the customers than I was in restocking the fridge, which was a problem. So I would see people coming in with their clients who had disabilities, and I thought, maybe I could do that for a living, having coffee with someone with a special need, and totally absolutely fell in love with this community of people.
So good.
Just totally didn't expect it because,
What would have been some of the things that have surprised you about working with?
Probably the joy, the little incidental interactions that happen through the day that you just go, I've got to remember that story because that was just so hilarious or so beautiful. Yeah, I love that. I love how exciting it is when someone achieves a breakthrough or a win. I think that's probably my favourite part of the job. If you manage to, if you're like working towards a goal and then you push through and that person achieves that goal, that's like a huge deal, which isn't probably that different from when I was working with youth and young adults and that kind of thing. But I think because you just really want people to reach, like I think that a lot of people in disability support forget that they're there to bring joy as well and to bring meaning and life, and that you have this little window of time to do that, and you can't really control what else is happening in their world, but you can control what happens in that time. That's what I feel most passionate about. So when something beautiful happens in that time, or you just know someone's had a great day, like, yeah, that's the stuff that makes me really come alive in my current job. Yeah. I love it so much.
As long as I've known you, you've been fairly fierce towards injustice, inequity. You can fire up if you feel like somebody's not being treated really, really well. Do you know how that developed, or do you just feel like it's just been there all your life? Or
I think it's just there. Like I went to a small school, and so there was a lot of clickiness in the group of friends, and you would turn up not really knowing day to day whether you were going to be right in the centre of the in group or whether that day was the day that the whole group would run away from you in the playground. And that was a thing that happened back then. But I used to always stay with the person who was being run away from. Even though as the court jester of the group, I was never one of the two popular girls, but I was usually around third because I was the funny one. But I still am trying to work out whether I didn't run away with the rest of them because I don't like to run or whether it was because of my compassion for the person left behind. But I'm pretty sure it was compassion.
I think so.
But I still don't run, which is, weird because I look athletic.
So working with people with disabilities, have they changed how you see the world?
Definitely.
So it's a two-way, you've found it a two-way thing?
Yeah, definitely. I think that there's a condescending kind of treatment towards people with disabilities that I didn't realise was there before, because people can either be totally indifferent and cruel to people with disabilities, or just not see them at all, or they can be overly condescending, meaning well, but sort of like talking to someone like they're a child before actually working out whether or not they can understand at a more adult level. And so some people do interact like a child, and that's fine to interact with them like that but you sort of got to let them lead the way so that you actually know who they are as a person. And I think that's, for me, the most important part is recognising the personhood of a person with disabilities, like that they are someone with hopes and dreams often, and someone who is loved by a network of people the same as us. And someone who actually should be allowed to do the things that they want to do. So if they are tired and they want to go home at 1:30 in the afternoon and they're, in their 60s, then let them go home. That's what I think. If my mum was being dragged around town and was like, I want to go home and have a cup of tea, I would be like, let's go home and have a cup of tea. She's not in her 60s, but, Anyway, sorry, that's my little rant.
Sounds like you've been, you find it very fulfilling. Like you found your sweet spot.
Yeah. I do definitely love it. But because I'm a manager now, there's a lot of admin in there too, which is not my sweet spot. And so that's where the rub is for me often, and the stress. Because there's freedom to make decisions and to really make a good difference as a manager that I didn't have before. But there's also like this whole pile of work outside of my natural gifting, which I also, which keeps me from doing the stuff I really love but is necessary. So I'm finding that's an interesting place for me. And by interesting, I mean sad.
You're a 2 on the Enneagram, which is a befriender and a caregiver. And you're also a social 2, which means that you are concerned about groups of people and the well-being of groups of people. So as a 2, you're often worried about the feelings. Do you ever find when it comes to, say, you have a management meeting, do you often feel like everybody's making decisions without taking into full consideration how people with disabilities might actually feel about the decision that's being made for them?
Yeah. I do think that the team that I work with in that management are pretty in tune with, because it is very current to be, thankfully, where disability is at the moment with the Royal Commission and everything into disability and aged care. We are more aware these days about meeting the client's goals. So that is always at the forefront. So I'm lucky in that sense. I probably do at times have an insight into, but that's not going to work because of this, or and probably not just for the clients, probably for the workers sometimes as well. Yeah, because I can still remember what it was like when I was a worker and how I felt. So sometimes I'll advocate in that direction as well. Yeah. But I think that our management team is pretty good with that stuff. Yeah. And also I think that sometimes I might want to coddle people a little bit, and sometimes I might give more direction or whatever than they need, which I was reading about the Enneagram stuff, and that's a very two thing to do. And I was like, oh my goodness, I do that. I definitely do that. So I think sometimes I might have lower expectations than I probably need to for other people, but I seem to have a high standard on myself that I probably don't feel like I reach enough. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Because you're a 2 as well. And for those that don't know, Enneagram's just a tool that we've been getting into a lot lately, which articulates a lot of who we are. Is that fair?
Yeah.
You're a 2 as well.
Yeah, and I'm a social 2 as well, which is why I fire up on social justice issues. Yeah.
Very fiery, like a volcano.
Yeah, well, I'm old.
You are not.
I've reached that stage in life where I don't care anymore if people like me or not.
So I'm yet to get to that stage.
Have you found unpacking in this Enneagram stuff for you? Like, have you found the language has helped you understand yourself better, or understand your role in teams and workplaces? And
I've found it explains a lot. It also reveals the shadow side, so it also shows the areas where you have to constantly work on, which I quite like because that helps with your spiritual formation. It's kind of it provides you with almost a pathway in which you and God can work on the parts of you that need to be worked on. And you've got language which you can talk to about God on that sort of stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Which I find helpful. Yeah.
So what's the shadow side of a 2, I suppose?
The shadow side is it's pride. So it's the inability to ask for help or to state what your needs are.
Yeah, okay.
So you often sacrifice your needs for the sake of everybody else.
Yeah.
And you sort of hope by loving everybody else they'll love you back.
That they'll see you in return, and that they'll reciprocate it back to you and take care of your needs in return. It's like this exchange that takes place.
Yeah. And that doesn't happen.
No, of course not.
No, because everybody's wired so differently.
Yeah.
Does that sound like you as well?
It does in part, although I do think with Richard I ask for what I need, and I feel totally fine to do that. Yeah. So I don't think it's in every, but I think sometimes it's maybe like I'll ask for what I need in a practical sense maybe at work, but I think that when it comes to if I've got some things that I really care about, that might not really come out until I feel pushed. So it might not be until I cry or something that or I react a little bit crabby to something that comes out, rather than just stating at the beginning, what I want is this. And I kind of let everybody else speak first usually on that sort of stuff. And I think that I do still sort of try and shape what I need to fit how it's going to affect other people as well. So I might trim off some bits and stuff just to make it a little bit more likeable. I think that's what I'm still working out, because when I was reading about that stuff, I thought, I can ask for what I need. And then I thought, I really love to make meals and stuff for people and do that a lot. Like when we go out for dinner to people's houses, we normally take the food. And when other people offer to do it for us, I have a weird reaction. I often go, no, it's so fine, that's what I do kind of thing. And I don't know why that is. And if any of my close friends are watching it, they'll be like, yes, you controlling person. I like to put it down to my allergies, but I think there's more to it than that. And when Richard was sick, we didn't, we sort of isolated ourselves and kind of didn't really know how to, like we felt loved by people, but we didn't accept any meals or anything like that.
One of the other great things for you, you know, you have that leadership ability to actually put programs on the ground and to empower people. So you've created a lot of programs since you've started for people with disabilities. Do you want to share some of those programs?
There's so many more that I really want to put
I'm going to get to that in a minute.
Okay, good. Probably one that I'm most excited about was actually in partnership with Tailrace. And so it's been running for about 3.5 years now. But that's our hospitality program. So we have 6 or 7 students, and like some people have been there for the whole time and others have come in for patches and gone. But it's a work readiness. It's reminding, reminding the students of what it is to work teaching them what it is to work in a professional working environment. So we have a lot of cooking programs and stuff that we run at work that aren't specifically about actually being in a commercial kitchen. So this one is about customer service, it's about food safety, health and safety, food presentation, all of that kind of thing, working together as a team, barista skills and all that kind of thing. So love that program because we really kicked some big goals last year and they sort of graduated with all these competencies and stuff like that. And then this year was a little bit different, obviously, with COVID, but they've still achieved some good things and we're finishing strong. I really love our music, our rock band as well. I'm not responsible for putting that on the ground, but have been working with it and have now passed it over to someone else, but I jump in for a few songs each week. I just love the joy. It's such a joyful noise. It's a noisy noise. It's very loud.
But with good moves.
So many good moves. I love that. I love, there's actually we're just about to start a life skills program. I'm super excited about that because it's about fostering independence and it's for some people in our community who could actually live independently, want to live independently, have all the tools to be able to do it. They just need a little bit of direction. And so that stuff, I love that.
It's pretty cool.
There's a few.
I just love the way it works. I just love the way in which, you know, God's given you this personality, you know, where you're a befriender, you're a caregiver, then leadership skills, and then that creative, because you've got a creative element in there as well. And you're just able to pull it all together for the common good. And that's what I love about that passage where he gives us our personality, our gifts, and it's all for the common good. And I just see, like I remember turning up to one of the afternoon teas with and the first time one young lad, he was too shy, too nervous to venture beyond the front of house counter. So in a way he didn't participate. And then I remember last year he actually gave a speech and was so actively involved, and now I see him working in a commercial kitchen, which is just so exciting, just watching that development. It's just such a beautiful gift to empower someone through into that. So what do you think 2021 might hold? In terms of creativity, because this comes back to your ability to ask for your needs, isn't it? To advocate for, this is what I see on the inside of me, but for us to create that, I'm going to need some help. For sure. I have a few dreams for 2021. One of them is, so Richard is creative as well, but totally different personality type, totally different gifts. And we got to do a workplace safety video for my workplace, for an arm of my workplace. And I was meant to just hold the camera, the microphone, the boom mic. That was my role. But as soon as I got there, I became the director. Only because Richard's really quietly spoken and he was concentrating, and I was wrangling like this whole warehouse full of blokes, which, you know, I quite love to do. But Richard didn't feel like his toes were trodden on at all. In fact, he'd sort of said to me, oh, you might have to do a little bit of directing. I was like, I don't know how to do that. But it was just magic. We had so much fun. I loved it so much.
And we just work together. I'd love to do more projects together with Richard because our gift mix fits so beautifully. And it just feels like a dream team. During lockdown, when we made a cooking show just for fun, we did 14 episodes, and it was just so much fun working together. Yep. So I'd love to bring more of that in, if I can, to our world, because I love how fulfilling it is for Richard as well. Like I love hearing him chuckle from our home office and how much passion and joy it brings him to work on a project that's come out of his heart. Yeah. But at work, I have a bunch of programs I'd like to get up and running, and I'm still working out how to do that. Maybe I have some ideas about that. Probably shouldn't articulate them before I articulate them to my boss.
That's so fine. You don't have to articulate them. I guess the thing is that there are dreams there, which I'm sure will benefit the common good.
Yeah, I hope so.
Which will benefit people. But with every new dream, there comes this stretch, doesn't there?
Yeah.
There comes this expansion. And as a 2 on the Enneagram, we often just take on more. Without actually saying, well, I have this need to create over here, because 2s can be very creative, especially for the social common good. But then somebody else has to come in behind and actually be a considerate helper towards them, so that then they can pick up maybe some of the management of those programs, or the day-to-day stuff, or the, just the serving kind of work that might need to happen, and that needs to be articulated. So do you ever find any tension in having that conversation or being able to articulate? Because I've found for myself as a 2, I can live just in that creative space without then thinking about, okay, well, what am I going to offload? And my daughter, who's a 1 on the Enneagram, who's a perfectionist, she's great at this. She kind of goes, Mum, you can't take that on until you've got this fixed.
I need some people like that around. I think that I still definitely have that, the thing of that with the number 2s that we're a number 2. Sorry.
It's just shorthand.
I have that thing where I really hate to feel like I've let the team down or let people down. So I hate to think that my needs and my job and whatever is going to cause more work for someone else, and that they won't like me as much. I think it probably comes down to that. Yeah. And even at 42, a young-looking 42, I still feel that. And I think that's probably one of my greatest tensions, is that I really would love to just pick all my favourite parts out of, and the bits I would love to just work within my gifts and abilities, but I don't know yet how we deal with the stuff that is very time consuming that isn't in my gifts and abilities.
But that's a great place to start, isn't it? By acknowledging that and being able to have that.
And at home, sometimes that looks like getting a cleaner in, rather, so that Richard and I can actually have time together on the weekend if work's super busy and that kind of thing. But working out how to do that at work when there are other people involved is hard. And I also have always felt like parts of my personality are a problem, like that I've always said, I'm a bit lazy and stuff like that, whereas if I look at actually how much work I do and the long hours I pull with that, like I don't put on my timesheet in that, I don't think I am lazy, but I think that if I'm doing things that I love and enjoy, I don't know, do you know what I mean? Like do you know what I mean when I say I feel a bit lazy? Like I feel like maybe I'll be perceived as lazy if I don't get everything done, including the stuff I don't love.
I think it's because you're so good with people that for some people who have a different wiring, so say a 3, like my husband, he would probably look and sort of say, why are you having such a long conversation with somebody when you could shorten that and get it done in 2 minutes as opposed to half an hour? So it's that different kind of a gift mix. So I don't necessarily think it's lazy, but some personalities might see it as inefficient use of time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So then they project that back. And there may be some truth in there where you can shorten it. But then
Should we shorten this?
There may be some truth too where we kind of have to say to personalities like my husband, you could stretch it a little bit and be kinder and a little bit warmer in there. And I think that's the strength of working together, isn't it? it?
Yeah.
You know, that's the strength of partnerships.
Yeah.
But also if you're aware of that kind of thing, you can have comical kind of conversations about it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you
Yeah.
don't get offended or upset about it. You just go, oh, they're just doing their thing.
Yeah.
Provides that common language, doesn't it?
Yeah.
No, it's so good.
How do you feel about somebody like Mary working, like seeing her in her flow? Like,
Mary's amazing. So what I love about both of you, but Mary in particular, is that like when I see people like you guys, like your superpower, as I see it, is the way that you, for Mary, your superpower is the way you connect with people. Like immediately you become someone's best friend.
Oh.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when I see that, whether it be in our church world, like with our small group, like our alpha group, which is so much fun, but whether it's there or whether it's with the disability clients or whatever, like your ability to see their needs and your love for them, you want to come alongside and help them. Like there's just that. It's a superpower. Like,
and it's exciting to watch.
no one else
isn't
can
it?
do that.
Yeah.
Do you
It's
know what I mean?
beautiful to watch.
It's awesome. Like it's
Yeah.
amazing. Like it's incredible. It's like there's no way I can do that.
Yeah.
And there's no way that Michael over there could do that. But it's incredible.
Yeah.
And so it's just
really
exciting,
beautiful.
like hearing dreams and seeing that superpower, like seeing when those come together, especially when there's other partnerships like what you've articulated that come around and form around behind it. Like it's just for the common good. It's exciting.
Yeah.
It's really
We're proud
cool.
of you.
Thank you. I think I always felt like my kind of gifts and abilities were a bit fluffy, not as important as some of the other ones out there.
Well, that's because our world is so dominated in one direction.
Yeah. So it's cool.
It's part of the reason why you wanted to have these conversations, isn't it?
Yes.
To highlight everyone's strengths.
Yeah, the beauty. And the beauty of what happens because it's all like a jigsaw.
Yeah.
You put it all together and you end up with this beautiful picture.
Well, coming back to this verse that we read out, Paul goes on to articulate it as being like the human body and how each part does its part.
Yeah.
Forms a beautiful picture.
Yeah.
Very
Cool.
good. We might
Cool.
leave
We
it.
might just
Yeah.
pray
Yeah, let's do that.
for
Here you go.
Yeah, for what you're doing. Father, we just thank you for Mary, and we just thank you for all the people in our city that are loving people with disabilities. And we also want to thank you for people with disabilities who love us back and who teach us things about the world and who help us to see you in different ways. And I just thank you that we can find you, the face of you in everyone. And so, Father, I just pray for 2021. I just pray for the dreams and the creativity to just explode and to flourish, and that people might flourish. I pray for those areas where Mary might need to ask for help, and I just pray for creativity in solving some of those problems to just enable love to find expansion and breath and vitality, delight and wonder in 2021. And we just thank you that love can never be contained when it's unleashed. In your precious name, amen.
Amen.